As of November 1987, 46,083 cases of AIDS have been reported. Of those, 45,679 are in the United States alone. Of these 46,083 victims, 57% have died. Hello, I'm Tim Laken for WGLH TV, and welcome to a special presentation. A presentation that deals with acquired immune deficiency syndrome, commonly known as AIDS. In this program, we'll take a look at interviews with middle school children about AIDS and AIDS education, the national reaction to this deadly disease, Gahanna-Jefferson's board policy on AIDS, as well as other schools' AIDS policies from other districts, and interviews with parents and their views about kids with AIDS. We'll also listen to a debate presented by Gahanna-Lincoln's debate team about AIDS testing, and a discussion group talking about the AIDS virus. All this and much, much more are to come in the next half hour. So please join me in this special presentation on AIDS. Today, AIDS education is stressed highly by several AIDS interest groups. It is strongly felt that America's youth needs to be educated about the deadly disease. Let's go to Sean Holler, who traveled to Gahanna Middle School East. He interviewed the principal about AIDS education and several students about their knowledge of AIDS. Sean?
AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. What is it? What does it cause? How can we get it? Does our younger generation know enough? I traveled to Gahanna Middle School East and spoke with 6th and 8th graders. Let's see what they know. Do you know what AIDS is?
Yes. It's a fatal disease that it's transmitted by sexual activity and by heroin, needles, and drugs.
I think it's a fatal disease. That's what I think it is. It's just a disease that's incurable and it can kill you.
Okay. And how is it caused?
Caused by blood transfusions and sexually transmitted.
By blood transplants and by taking drugs, and sexual stuff.
I also spoke with Mr. Dennis Souter, the principal at Middle School East, on how they go about educating the younger children. And he replied, straight out, factual, like the Surgeon General. Have you studied AIDS in school, and if you have, what have you learned about it?
Yes, and it's very harmful, and it's harmful.
We haven't studied it in school really much, but as far as I know, it's a fatal disease that's transported by saliva and blood and other things like that.
Has your parents, any of your parents, talked to you about AIDS and what it can do to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
In this reporter's opinion, maybe more parents need to discuss this touchy subject with their children. After all, it is a matter of life and death. This has been Sean Holler reporting for WGLH TV. Now back to Tim.
Thank you, Sean. Not only is AIDS education important in the schools, but due to the awareness that AIDS can be transferred via blood transfusion, Shelley Tillery went to the Red Cross to find out just how safe donating blood is. Let's watch.
AIDS is a serious problem, and there's one way you can help, by giving blood. Many people are scared to give blood, but we're here to prove that it's still safe. I'm Shelley Tillery, and we're going to be talking with some people from the Red Cross about donating blood. With us now is Barbara Stein, the Assistant Public Relations Director. Barbara, since AIDS has become such a prevalent disease in the news lately in articles about AIDS, has the number of donors dropped?
No, we did see a decline in early 1985, right when we started testing for AIDS. However, lately, in the past 2 years, the blood donor collections have been better than ever.
Should donors be scared to donate blood?
No, absolutely not. There is no risk whatsoever to the blood donors when they come in to donate blood. The equipment that we use is sterile. The needles are disposable. They're used once for that donor, and then they are discarded. So there's absolutely no risk of contamination whatsoever.
Here is donor Neil Staten. Neil, are you scared to donate blood now that AIDS is such a serious and well-known problem?
No, I've never really considered it a threat or anything else. I feel it's for a good cause, and I just feel if it wasn't safe that the Red Cross wouldn't be taking blood donations anyway, so it's never really entered my mind.
What other precautions does the Red Cross take to prevent the transmission of AIDS?
Okay, we do a lot of testing and screening procedures in the blood supply. When donors come in, they are asked a number of questions about their past and present health and their possibility of being in a high-risk group for AIDS. They're also tested. Every unit of blood is tested in Central Ohio, and any units that test positive are discarded. We also have a system called self-exclusion, and that is if a donor feels pressure to donate blood, they can self-exclude their unit of blood from the community blood supply by simply putting a bar sticker on their form that says, no, I would not like my unit to be transfused.
Even though I'm not 17 yet, I'll be willing to give blood to the Red Cross. Why don't you come out this holiday and give blood? This has been Shelley Tillery for WGLH. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Shelley. When speaking of the AIDS virus, one must usually refer to a doctor or expert of some sort. WGLH's own Tracy Starr did just that. Let's find out what Tracy learned from her interview with Dr. Tisnik about AIDS.
In recent years, the fear of AIDS has become widespread, and for good reason. There is no known cure for AIDS, and its ability to hide out for years without causing the victim to have any symptoms makes it dangerous. Not to mention the fact that the virus is known worldwide. This is pretty scary. Because of the uncertainty about the virus and how it spread, I talked to Dr. Tisnik, a physician at Gahanna, to get some answers and to find out how he would handle AIDS. Do you think the fear of AIDS has reached Gahanna?
Yeah, I think it has. I've had several patients asked to be tested for exposure to the virus. I'm kind of surprised that really more people haven't asked for that kind of testing, though.
What kind of precautions for AIDS do you take as a doctor?
The only precautions I take would be that if I think I'm going to be exposed to a person's body fluids, such as blood, if I'm going to do a procedure where I'll need to take off a sore on the skin or something like that, I always wear gloves, which I always did. Mm-hmm. If I need to examine someone's urine or some other fluid like that, I wear gloves. And that's about the only precaution that I take here in the office.
Okay. Do you have any AIDS patients?
Not that I'm aware of, but the thing that everybody should keep in mind is we should really treat everybody we meet as a potential AIDS carrier, including a newborn baby who might have picked up the AIDS, our grandmother who may have had an operation and received blood with AIDS, or our neighbor. And that doesn't mean we should be afraid of everyone, but it just means we shouldn't exchange body fluids with anyone unless we're very careful about it.
If you had an AIDS patient, would you tell your other patients?
No, that, like every other medical fact about my patients, is strictly confidential. The only exception to that are certain disease states that the state needs to know about. And the state has a specific list of these that we do report.
If you have any questions about AIDS or want more information, you can get this book from Dr. Tisnik for only $1. This has been Tracy Starr reporting for WGLH TV. Now back to the studio.
When one thinks of doctors, hospitals usually come into play. With the AIDS virus being such a significant problem, many have started AIDS programs. Stephanie White paid a visit to University Hospital here in Ohio to learn about their AIDS program. Stephanie?
AIDS, that dreaded virus, the one that's panicking the nation. But what are hospitals doing about it? Hello, this is Stephanie White for WGLH TV. Recently I had the chance to find out. I talked with Dr. Timothy Babincek, a doctor at University Hospital's Infectious Diseases ward. Let's hear what he had to say.
Yeah.
Dr. Babincek, would you tell me about your AIDS treatment program here at University Hospital?
Okay. Well, first of all, Stephanie, we have been very lucky that we have recently obtained a grant from the National Institute of Health, the NIH, to become a core database with other centers in the rest of the country for AIDS research. What that entails is a basic grant of $7 million over the next 5 years that's going to be dedicated to developing a cohort of AIDS patients and patients who are infected with the AIDS virus but not necessarily have the disease. And what we'll be involved in is various treatment regimens and treatment protocols of various drugs that may prove to be helpful at some time in the future for AIDS.
Okay, what sort of, do you have any particular counseling program for people who have just been told they have AIDS?
Okay. There are various AIDS groups in the community. The university has an AIDS education association that is a valuable resource for not necessarily those who are infected with the virus, but for those people who want information about the virus. The university is actively involved in education as far as the student body is concerned and the public in general is concerned. There are specific AIDS counseling groups available for different segments of the
Do you ever take it out of the university to other communities and try to educate or
teach? We do in the department, between Dr. Parra and the other doctors here in the department, have numerous speaking engagements with different organizations in the city on various topics of AIDS prevention, AIDS manifestations, the epidemiology of the disease, and so forth.
I then asked Dr. Babincek about the hospital's point of view on the treatment of AIDS patients.
The hospital point of view, as far as the way we handle AIDS patients and things like that, we're basically concerned with preventing the spread of the disease at this point. And as far as patients are concerned in the hospital, AIDS patients don't get any particular treatment, special treatment as it is per se in the hospital as far as isolation procedures or anything like that. What the hospital has attempted to do is to treat all patients with the same degree of precautions that we would treat an AIDS patient with. That way, the risk of infection, not only by AIDS, but other infections in the hospital, will hopefully be contained and go down also.
For WGLH TV, this has been Stephanie White. Now back to the studio.
With hospital programs for AIDS comes school board policies dealing with students or employees with AIDS. Todd Spencer did some research on the Gahanna-Jefferson School District AIDS policy, as well as other school district policies. Let's have a look.
AIDS in our schools. It's there, don't deny it. And as parents, you should be very concerned as to what exactly the policy on AIDS and major communicable disease is in your school district. Of the area schools I called, only Columbus and Gahanna have major communicable disease policies, and Westerville is currently wording a policy to be done in January. As for Gahanna's policy, it includes a plan for education of the administration, teaching, and non-teaching employees of the Gahanna-Jefferson School District. The board will also help other public agencies in education of the general public. If a student contracts AIDS, they should tell the school nurse, who will contact the Director of Pupil Services and the Board of Health. The superintendent will head an evaluation team to determine steps to be taken. The superintendent can, in that student's case, 1. Assign the student to school unconditionally, 2. Assign the student to school under restrictive conditions, or 3. Recommend the student for home instruction. In any case, the student will, under this policy, be educated by the Gahanna-Jefferson School District. Of course, if a student with AIDS is in the school system, utmost confidentiality will be kept, to the best of our ability. The only persons notified are that student's teachers, the superintendent, the principal, and the school nurse, unless the parents of the student or the aforementioned evaluation team deem it necessary to inform the public. This has been a brief encapsulation of the school board's policy on major communicable diseases and AIDS. If you have any further questions, do not hesitate to contact the superintendent's office. This has been Todd Spencer reporting.
Thank you, Todd. So far, we've seen stories on AIDS education in the schools and different school board programs for AIDS. Here to get some parents' views on kids with AIDS is correspondent Neil Smith.
Hi, what's your name?
Linda Kimes.
How would you feel if your son or daughter was going to school with an AIDS patient?
Okay. I think they should go to school.
Okay. Do you think that they deserve an education at a public school just like another child does?
Yeah.
Any reasons?
Because you can't get it AIDS by casual contact.
Okay, and how do you think that the government and the country is handling AIDS in general?
Okay, but they should get more information about it out.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, what's your name?
Nicolay Martin.
Okay, how would you feel if your son or daughter was going to school with an AIDS patient?
It wouldn't bother me any.
Okay, why?
Well, because it's a known fact that it's not passed through general contact or anything, and as long as you teach your children, let them know about AIDS, I feel that they're perfectly safe.
Okay, and how do you think the government and how the country is handling the AIDS situation?
Well, I think they could do more than what they are doing right now. I know funding is needed for research, but they really need to do more about it and more teaching about it.
Hi, what's your name?
My name's Larry James.
Okay. How would you feel if your son or daughter was going to school with an AIDS patient?
I really wouldn't have any problems as long as there was no contact that could spread the AIDS.
Okay, and how do you think the country in general is handling the AIDS syndrome?
Very poorly, quite honestly. They aren't really doing enough research into an actual curing the problem. Education is very slim, and they just need to do a much better job.
Okay, one last question. How do you think that AIDS should be taught even at the elementary school level?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Neil. After seeing the local reaction to the AIDS virus, Amy Wallace reports on the national feeling of AIDS. Amy?
After you take a dip in a local swimming pool, it is evacuated and scrubbed. Vandals shoot out your car windows, and rumors fly through town that you've been tainting apples in the local supermarket. Your family has shunned you, and the only members to speak to you are your father and sisters. You've been denied being buried next to your mother for fear of contaminating the groundwater. How would you feel? Steve Forrest, which isn't his real name, was put in this situation in real life. Steve has a deadly disease called acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or otherwise known as AIDS. Could this happen in your town? Did it? Well, it happened in Williamson, West Virginia, Steve's hometown, where he returned to die. After being arrested for drunk driving, this is what happened. "Officer, I think there's something you should know," said the young man. "What's that?" In 3 years as Delbarton's sole patrolman, Levins had heard a lot of drunken attempts to avoid West Virginia's mandatory 24-hour jail sentence. Now he is prepared to hear another. "I tested positive for AIDS." An hour later, when Levins told Mingo County jailers that the man they were about to lock up said he had AIDS, they leaped back in horror. "You're joking," exclaimed a jail official. After nervous consultation, the jailers decided to move the other inmates to another cell and put Forrest in a cell by himself. As an afterthought, they removed the mattress from Forrest's bed. If you would like to learn more about Steve's story, it appears in the October 27, 1987 issue of U.S. News and World Report. The problem Steve had with the town resulted from lack of knowledge dealing with AIDS, and this can be prevented. It is not only important for you, but for everybody else to learn as much as what they can about AIDS. In order to conquer an enemy, you must study it. This has been Amy Wallace for WGLH TV.
Thank you, Amy. With the national reaction and the local reaction covered, let's find out the reaction of AIDS in Gahanna-Lincoln High School.
We asked several high school students what their reaction would be if they found out a fellow student had AIDS. Let's listen.
Classmate. I'd probably just treat him the same as everybody else.
I'd probably treat him like any other kid. I'm sure if the kid was able to come to school and that, the administration would have, made sure that he couldn't have give the AIDS to anyone else. So I wouldn't. I'd treat him like anybody else.
Totally.
We then asked the students if they thought people with AIDS should be able to hold jobs. Here's what they had to say.
I feel they should be allowed to do whatever they want, work wherever they want, because it's not really their fault that they have this disease.
I think they should be able to go along with their job and all. But
For WGLH TV, thank you. Now back to you, Tim.
Now that we've learned about AIDS on the local and national level, AIDS education, the views of parents about kids with AIDS, doctors' views, hospital programs, and blood donation safety, let's take a look at some fascinating, yet upsetting facts about the AIDS virus. And for our last feature, BJ Washburn taped a sophomore speech class discussion group on AIDS. Let's hear some of the high points of the discussion. BJ?
We are in Mrs. Geiser's speech class where the panel of Lori Richardson, Jack Jarvis, Kirk Winters, Melissa Larimer, and Brian Antrim are addressing the problem of children with AIDS attending schools. Let's listen.
Indiana. Ryan White returned to school last winter, greeted by first picketers and then a court order banning him from school. Ryan was born a hemophiliac, but didn't contract the AIDS virus until 1984, when he took a blood clotting compound obtained from many donors. They said he could attend school if he used a separate bathroom and used separate and disposable utensils. He was also forbidden to take the gym class. He is the same as any other teenager in every way except his health. He enjoys Bruce Springsteen. He has 61 G.I. Joe figures. He enjoys baseball teams like the Dodgers and the Cubs. He was even grounded last spring for smoking. But his health is a different story. In August of 1986, when he was 14, he weighed only 79 pounds.
They have a hard time being able to actually quarantine a child or any person with AIDS from attending their usual role in society, because quarantine really has no role in the management of AIDS, because AIDS is not spread by casual contact. It's not like you can go to school with somebody and pass them in the hall and possibly contract the AIDS virus. The only time some form of quarantine might be initiated is in a situation where an individual carrying the AIDS virus knowingly and willingly continues to expose others through sexual contact or sharing drug equipment for the reason that they will get the AIDS virus. Like, he knows he's going to die, so he's going to try and kill as many people while he still can.
You can't get AIDS from someone by hugging someone or using the bathroom after they do, or even kissing them on the cheek. You know, you're not going to get AIDS through the skin. You have to have sexual contact, number one. You have to share drug needles, number two. And a lot of immigrants from Haiti often contract this disease.
Or blood transfusions.
Right, blood transfusions.
But that doesn't mean that everybody can get AIDS from blood transfusions.
Really, it's a pretty slim chance that you can get them from blood transfusions, because only 1 in 250,000 people that have AIDS, only one of them gets it from a blood transfusion. It's even harder now with all the tests that they do to make sure that the blood isn't infected or anything.
Yeah. I took a poll out of 10 people in our school, and 2 out of the 10 people said that
they would not want to go to school with somebody who had AIDS. And that's pretty good because thinking that they probably are scared, they don't know all the facts about it. But 2 out of 10 people, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's 80% would go to school when an AIDS patient is attending there.
Thank you, BJ. In the last half hour, we've seen and heard quite a bit about the AIDS virus. From the national to the local level, from different viewpoints about AIDS to blood donation safety, and much more. AIDS is a growing problem in America today, but with the knowledge, awareness, and caring of today's society, coupled with new discoveries pertaining to the AIDS virus and its cure, I see nothing but a positive outlook. We hope you have been enlightened this past few minutes, because the single biggest factor in combating the disease is education, and we from WGLH are happy to have been part of that education. From WGLH TV, this has been your host, Tim Laken, saying thank you for watching.
How do you find out when an administration is corrupt?